button before I get too much into this. I am recording this meeting now. If it asks you for permission, just click OK, because some people couldn't make it tonight, so I'm going to have to post a recording of this. So let's talk about internet service providers. We have a choice of two pretty much on the Cape, Verizon or Comcast. I believe that you can get Hughes satellite in some areas where there aren't cabling, but those two are the main contenders on the Cape, and we don't really have much of a choice. Here's Helena. I'll just admit Helena. So a short explanation about Verizon. Even if you have Verizon, the chances are you have something called DSL broadband, and that is a phone line essentially. That's what it is. It's a phone line. If you have Comcast, you probably have your internet through cable, and that is cable that's backed up by a fiber. Okay, so you're going to get much faster internet speeds if you're on Comcast than you are if you're on Verizon, because DSL broadband is more limited than Comcast. And I really don't want to shill for Comcast, but unfortunately that's the position we're in on the Cape. We don't really have too many choices. I personally use Comcast because I have a lot of stuff that I do on the computer, and I have to make sure that I have a really good connection because of all the things I upload and download. So that's something to think about. If you've had a rough time during remote learning and you're on Verizon, you might want to think about switching to Comcast for a comparable price, and just see if you get better internet out of it. I know that the difference for me between switching between Verizon and Comcast was really night and day. I did not have great internet with Verizon, and when I switched to Comcast, it got a lot better. It just depends on what you can afford, you know, and where you are on the Cape, because we are a rural area as well. And that's something that we have to think about too. We don't have the luxury of being in the city with a lot of infrastructure. Here, like I say, you know, there's a cable that runs up Route 6 that Comcast run. And if you're close to it, you're probably going to get better internet than if you're further away from it. So you really need to think about where you are. The next thing I want to talk about is, has anybody ever heard of something called a bandwidth calculator? All right. Helena's nodding her head with a no. And to those of you who have just joined, I want to point out, if you look at chat, there's a couple of links in chat. One is a link to my website, the technology integration part of my website, and there's a couple of infographics on there that you can feel free to download and take a look at, and they relate to what we're talking about tonight. The second link is to a short survey. Okay, so let's talk about bandwidth. Bandwidth is what your internet connection can handle. So the thing I think about when it comes to bandwidth is, think about how many people live in your house. Think about how many of them use the internet. Are they using the internet at the same time? Think about how many devices you have in your house that all use the internet. How many smart TVs do you have? How many laptops are you running? How many desktop computers are you running? How many tablets are you running on Wi-Fi? And how many people are using them at the same time? What a bandwidth calculator does, and there's a link to a bandwidth calculator in one of those infographics, it will ask you those questions and you'll put your answers in, and when you get to the end of it, it will give you a sort of an idea of the kind of bandwidth that you need, and it will be a number. When I ran through all my stuff, it came up with the number 96, which means that I need to make sure that if I want everything to run smoothly with no lag, and lag just means when the internet really slows down. I'm sure we've all experienced that when we were remote learning, when, you know, people would just either drop connection or they would start going really slowly, or their voice would sound like Mr. Robot. That's what happens when you're exceeding the bandwidth of your internet. And doing something like this, being on a video call, takes up a lot of bandwidth. So, you know, if you've got several students in the same house all remote learning, that can take up a lot of bandwidth. That's something to consider. So if you do the bandwidth calculation, then you can see roughly what you should be aiming for when you buy your internet package, if you can afford to do that. The next thing you want to do after that is run a speed test. And I have put together a speed test infographic for you in that link that will take you through every step of running a speed test on your internet. It's very, very simple. if I share screen with you right now, okay, if I share my screen and I go into a new tab here and I just type in speed test, okay, and then I hit enter. Google already has a speed test built into their browser. Hopefully you can all see that. If I hit run speed test, you're going to see what my internet looks like. Now I am currently having this Zoom meeting with you guys. So you can see that my megabits per second, Mbps, download speed is 389.9, and my megabits per second upload speed is 36.0. And then you can see right here that I have a latency of 13 milliseconds. So that's a very, very short space of time, and I have very, very fast internet. But I pay for very, very fast internet, and that can be quite a steep price every month. So that's how to find out how fast your internet is. Now, remember that number I told you earlier, 96 that I got from the bandwidth? Well, my 389 really exceeds that. So I know I'm okay. I can run a couple of iPads, I can stream video conferencing, I can do all kinds of things and not exceed my bandwidth, which means I shouldn't really lag unless the internet gets really shaky or cuts out. And that's something to really think about when you are doing your online learning or whatever it is you're trying to do online all at once, because when we think about the kinds of things we're doing online, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you now. When we think about that, Helena, I will post it to you. Don't worry. I'll post the links at the end of the meeting again. When we think about everything that we're doing online, maybe you've got a brother or sister who's learning at the same time as you. Most of the things that we're doing online, we're actually doing in high definition these days as well. If you're showing videos to students, or you're a student who's watching a teacher video, the chances are that video's in high def, because we've kind of all gone into that model now. So the recommendations from the FCC, who are the agency that oversees the internet in America, are that if you're a student or somebody who's working from home, the ideal bandwidth you're looking for is at least 25 Mbps, between 25 and 40. 40 is much better, but if you can only, if you're really, having issues affording an internet package, you really should be looking for at a minimum 25 download. Okay, so that's something to go on. And I strongly advise you all to do some speed tests so that you can see what your download and your upload speed are. And then you can go look at your internet bill or your internet provider and see what you're being charged for, right? So if Comcast are charging you for 50 up, then you want to make sure that that's what you have. If you don't, you need to go to them and say, hey, you're charging me for 50 up and I only have 30 consistently, right? So that's a calculation that you want to be aware of. A lot of people I know don't really pay attention to that, but if it was something like your electricity bill or another kind of bill, you'd probably be right on it. I think a lot of times people aren't so much onto their internet bills because it's not an area that they feel particularly confident about. But you have total control over what kind of internet comes into your house, depending on how much you're willing to pay for it, and making all kinds of making the speed test and really comparing and contrasting your bill and seeing that you're getting what you're paying for. So 25 to 40 is a good number. Certainly if you have more than one student in the house, you're going to want to make sure you have 40. If you're a teacher, you're probably going to want to make sure you have 40. I'm hopeful that most of you have a lot more than that. I know that I can tell you this in terms of affording internet. The state just sent out a round of grants. I know that Provincetown schools did receive some money from those grants, so we will be able to help families who haven't been able to keep up to speed with internet for this coming school year. That's an ongoing thing that we're going to be diving into in the next couple of weeks, since we're going to remote learning. Helena, yes, you're saying I too have the highest internet possible from Comcast, but I still get messages like unstable internet connection, especially on Zoom. Yeah, and Helena, that can happen. You know, there are flutters in the internet from time to time. I get it as well. And it's unfortunately, it's really a part of rural life here. That doesn't happen a tenth as much when you're in the city. Um, you know, it really, we're not on fiber yet on the Cape. The only people that are on fiber internet on Cape Cod are municipalities. Like Town Hall is on fiber. Our school is on fiber internet, but it was only connected up to town buildings, you know, government buildings. So fiber does exist on the Cape, but it is not available to buy, especially up Cape, for customers here yet. They just haven't made that investment.
So there's nothing to be done when that happens.
We cannot get on fiber internet in residential homes yet on the Cape.
So it's just, you live with the unstable internet connection and all of that. Especially for me, it mostly happens on Zoom, and it's the part
Right.
that.
Right, and that's because Zoom is a very hungry platform.
Right.
It's much hungrier than Google Meet. And I want to make clear to everybody that's here tonight that from now on, we're going to be using the Meet platform just to get everybody used to that. Because it's what every grade is going to be using in the school ongoing for remote learning this year. So that's something to bear in mind. And we fixed it so that anybody can access the Google Meeting links that we send out. You do not have to have a Gmail. You do not have to have a school Gmail. As long as you are, you know, I'm going to put out a general link to these meetings so that people can safely join in. And we've made that possible for people to do. And I think it's a good thing to get used to Google Meet as a tool, because we are going to be using it a lot this year in school, for sure.
So no more.
No more Zoom, no. Zoom is, maybe some administrators will use Zoom, but we're really switching to Meet because it's a much more secure platform. And it's compliant with all of the Child Protection Acts. You know, it's just a much safer space to be in.
Maybe I'll get less unstable internet connections if it's another platform.
Yeah, maybe. Does anybody have any questions on anything that I've talked about? Do you have any questions on your own setup? Is there any, do you want to ask any questions about Wi-Fi boosters or extenders or any other equipment that you're wondering about? You can type your message, your question in chat if you don't want to speak. I'm fine with that too.
This is Alicia. So we have not, because we live even, I think, off of where you can have band. HughesNet might be an option for us. But so far, we have just been using our phones to make mobile hotspots, even for things like Xbox gaming for our kids.
Okay, and that's working out?
It's working out for gaming. I don't know if it will work out for school.
Well, if it's working out for gaming, the chances are it will work out for school, because gaming is a major suck of bandwidth. Like, you really need to have decent internet in order to be able to game. What kind of games are we talking about here, Alicia?
Fortnite,
okay.
Minecraft.
All right, yeah, so those take up a fair amount of bandwidth, so I think you should be okay. I did look at HughesNet, and that's a satellite internet. That seems incredibly expensive.
Yes,
Exactly.
it is, and they want you to sign like a 2-year contract, and we're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I do know some families that have used that in the past, and I know that I used to hear from students all the time that they couldn't actually participate sometimes because they'd exceeded their you know, the amount that they were allotted, and that was them cut off until another, you know, satellite pass. I don't know how it essentially works, but if you're able to game, then you should be able to dial into Google Classroom and all the rest of it, and you should be able to watch school videos and lesson plans without too much of a problem. And we're moving, sorry, go ahead.
So we get like 15 gigabytes per phone.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
We have 15 gigabytes
Okay.
per month per phone. So like, how many gigabytes we're going to be using probably per month?
That's really hard to say. That's really hard to say. I mean, gaming takes up the most. I know that because I'm a gamer myself, and I use up a tremendous amount of internet just on that alone. But I think if you have that amount, you should be fine, because you're learning. Remember, remote learning is not for the whole school day. It's usually for a couple of hours max per day, and it's not really heavy on informational traffic. You're not really downloading a whole lot. You're kind of watching stuff. You're maybe in Google Meet. So I think you'll be fine. But if you're not, then we can investigate things like really getting you, you know, a standalone Wi-Fi hub that might help you out, that might boost you up a little bit.
Thank
So
you so much.
Helena, yeah, no problem. Helena, your question. So if I have the highest internet for Comcast, you don't need hotspots. No, you don't. You don't. And hotspots are places where you can go to sort of piggyback on other people's Wi-Fi, right? So we have, you know, we may have had instances where students could not get a signal because they didn't have internet in the house, and they've had to go to the nearest Wi-Fi hotspot. And Comcast and Verizon usually provide, if you go to their websites online, you usually will be able to find a map of where all the Wi-Fi hotspots and the Comcast hotspots are. And those are different from things like what we would call a Wi-Fi booster or a Wi-Fi extender. Those are things that you would plug in your house if you wanted to extend the current Wi-Fi signal that you have at your house to maybe a further room, right? But all it does is it takes the signal that you already have and it uses that. A lot of people think, oh, if I have really bad Wi-Fi, if I get one of these devices, it's going to boost my Wi-Fi. But the truth of the matter is that if you have bad Wi-Fi, all it does is it kind of shreds your bad Wi-Fi even further. It does not, you know, make the signal any stronger. It just sort of boosts it out a little bit more, but it's still bad Wi-Fi.
So it's not solving any of my problems with the
It's
unable
not solving your problem,
or
no. But
overheating
Helena,
or any of that, right?
Helena, you might, if you're really experiencing bad internet and this is happening a lot for you, definitely run the speed test. Run the speed test when you not have any devices on other than the one you're doing the speed test on, and then run it when you've got, maybe your kids are on an iPad and somebody else is on a computer, somebody's watching TV. Like, run it then and see what it looks like. Because, you know, I've had problems with internet in the past with Comcast where I couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting the signal I was paying for, and it turned out there was a big cabling issue at my house. Like, the Comcast actually had to come out and redo a lot of my cables because there was a lot of what they call noise getting into old cabling. And when noise, as they call it, gets into the line, it interrupts your internet signal and you get a poorer quality as a result. So it's worthwhile checking and making sure, especially if you're in an older house that, you know, really it's older than, like, say 10 years. And the cabling hasn't been looked at, it's worthwhile getting a tech to come out and actually check the signal for you. And make sure you don't need your cables replacing, like going out to the street, because that can happen. They don't last forever.
It's because it's when this happens to me, and I don't mean to monopolize this meeting, it's usually there's only me on the computer, TV is off, nobody else is using any internet, so and I have the highest one, and these things keep happening. So
Yeah.
that's why you might have something there in terms of like old cables or that noise. So I will investigate that.
Yep, it's a good thing to investigate, and don't be frightened off by any jargon or anything like that. I mean, you basically just tell them you've run a speed test and you feel like there's something not working out right. They can run tests remotely over the phone with you. They can actually ping your router or your gateway point in your house and tell you if they think there's something going on with the line, and then they're usually pretty quick about coming out to check it.
Okay, I'll investigate that. Thank you.
Helena, I sent you the links to those two things. Does anybody have any other questions?
Will it disappear when this is over? So should I just
No, I'm recording this meeting and I will email it to you, so don't worry.
Oh, thank you. And I'll be quiet now.
Post this meeting somewhere on the website, or I'll email it out and it will get emailed out to you if you want. Does anybody have any questions around school devices or their setup? Any worries? Nope, everybody's happy? Well, that's good. I know that, like I said, there are plans to help out with internet. We do have that in our budget for this year. We have bought some new devices. We're going to be taking a look at all student devices. We are moving to a single sign-on. hopefully over the next couple of weeks. So that should help with, you know, parents having to scramble and forgetting, you know, passwords and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna have a single sign-on, which means when you sign into a computer, you'll basically be signed into everything. You won't have to remember your password for IXL or Google Classroom or any of that stuff. Everything will be signed into at once. I'm not quite sure how it works yet, but Tyler and I are figuring it out. So yeah, I mean, that's about all we have to say about, you know, really checking your internet connection prior to us going into remote learning. I know for teachers, it can be very frustrating. I don't know if Kirsten's, I think you're still here in this meeting, Kirsten, and you were trying out a new set of something that you got from Verizon. What device will a kindergartner have? Helena, a kindergartner will have an iPad.
I'm here.
And we've just done some calculations, and it looks like every single child in Provincetown will still be able to have a one-to-one device.
Awesome.
So we'll be shifting to Meet, Google Meet for everybody, Google Classroom for everybody. Everybody will have an email, even kindergartners. But don't worry, Helena, we're not going to be expecting them to check it. It just allows them to be logged into all the systems so that you have ease of access as a parent. Any questions on that? I mean, you know, we're going into a second bout of remote learning. I think we did really well the first time. We're going to do even better this time. There's lots of cool stuff coming. That should be very straightforward to get a hold of, because my main concern is that nothing is difficult for either parents or teachers. You know, there's very short, sweet learning curve, you know, because I know that we all just want to focus on actually learning and having some compelling content out there. So how's it working, Kirsten? You're muted. Let me see if I can unmute you.
Obviously off
There you
my
go.
game of unmuting myself and muting myself, but you know, like this is working perfectly up here so far.
Okay,
So
good. It's a good idea in advance of us starting for both teachers and students to sort of have a dedicated place, if you can, in your house, if you can do that at all, where you have a proper seat and you're sitting. And it's very important, I think, especially for students, to have the computer be at eye level so that you're not straining your neck, and to think about how your body is positioned. And I have a couple of really good graphics on that I'm going to share with people next week, I think. But please feel free to fill in the survey and let me know, or email me and let me know if there are, you know, topics that you want to get into one-to-one, or that you would like to have reviewed in a meeting. And I can put that together. This is just all part of reaching out to the community in a way that we haven't done as a school before. So we might be starting small, but it might hopefully grow. And you know, we'll get the help and support that we all need, and we'll get through this. We are new. Oh, I see you, Alusha. We are new to Provincetown. When can we pick up the Chromebooks? I would think Edgar Miranda, our early learning center coordinator, is still the man who is in charge of distribution. And I believe we did have distribution days, which were on a Tuesday and a Friday, and that is coming back into force. I will check and find out when that happens. And then what you do, Alusha, is you come in on either a Tuesday or a Friday. And I believe can either of you guys, Helena and Kirsten, refresh my memory? What times was that between on a Tuesday and a Friday?
it was like 12 to 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No,
No?
it was morning. It
Morning?
ended- wait.
So it was like, was it like 10 a.m. until
Oh,
noon?
you're right. 10 to 2. You're right. You're right, Kristen.
Okay.
My apologies.
So it was 10 to 2, Alusha, on a Tuesday and a Friday. And what will happen is we will get your Chromebooks ready, and then Edgar will reach out to you, or I will reach out to you and say, stop by and pick them up. And you'll get everything you need, you know, however many Chromebooks you need, sets of headphones, you know, whatever peripherals, a couple of mice, whatever you think you need. Oh, somebody, Sheree Silva. Okay. Any other questions? If we don't have, oh, a survey, Lily, a survey. I can give you a survey. Here. I'm gonna post it to everyone in chat. This is the very, very, very short survey. There you go. So fill that out. Feel free to pass it along if you need to anyone, and let's talk some technology. We can talk about anything. We can talk about the G Suite. We can talk about Gmail, Google Sheets, all kinds of things. We can talk about the different softwares we're using this year. We can talk about, you know, if you're thinking of purchasing a device, if you need some advice on that. It's really up to you. If you need help with parental controls on devices, you can also reach out to me one-to-one, and I can give you a hand with that as well. Other than that, I think we're going to end it for tonight if nobody has any further questions. If you do, speak up or type in chat.
Again, me, I have a very simple question. How do I access that survey? It's in chat, so
Oh, you just click on the link, Helena.
where's the link? Over here?
Yeah, it's so if you go down to the bottom of the screen and you click on the chat button, can you see, does a chat box come up with links in it, or do you already have it up?
I have all the chat on the side and I see everybody's writing, right?
Uh-huh. And do you
But
see the blue links that I posted?
No, I don't have any blue links.
Oh, that's interesting. Let me post it to you privately.
Hmm.
Do you see it now?
Oh, I see something that it's got forms and
Yep,
all that.
yep,
access,
Yep.
but it's not active. It's not active.
You could
No.
maybe, that might be a setting that you need to put on in yours. Oh, I posted that to you, Kirsten, sorry.
Oh.
So let me post that in the meeting again. So that's the link for the form to everybody. And this is the link to the two infographics. I'm just posting that right now. Okay, Helena, I will email those to both of you. I mean, I will email both of those to you in just a second
Okay, do you think
after I finished.
it's something with settings in my,
It might be that you're not allowing links to be live. It might be something with your settings in your actual Zoom, but we're not going to worry about that right now. I'll just send them to you.
thank you.
And you're not going to be on Zoom that much. You're going to be in Google Meet, and lots of great changes are coming to Meet, by the way. They're going to have breakout rooms. You're going to be able to see your students while you're presenting, which is very important for some
Yeah.
teachers. And they're just going to be much more interactive in general. There's going to be a whiteboard for you to use with students. So they're really trying to make some changes that are meaningful.
That's great.
But again, you're going to be getting 10 days of PD.
Good.
So this is PD for the community. This is technology PD for the community. So we're just, you know, we just want to make sure that if you have questions about your child's technology or the technology you're using, that you feel absolutely free to reach out. There is no question too small. And please don't feel, you know, I get a lot of people coming to me saying, oh, I feel really stupid asking this question. Trust me, there are no stupid questions. I do not, I want to hear your questions because it's great to just, I have stupid questions that I ask all the time. They're not stupid. They're just, you know, things that you don't know. And that's okay. We're a learning community. We're safe to do that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else before I end it for tonight? Let everybody go back to their vacation business.
Thank you, Tracy, for doing this. You're awesome.
You're most welcome. We're gonna keep at it every week. All right.
All right.
you.
I'll keep you posted.
Yep.
Hi, Helena.
Bye, bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Lily. Nice hippo. Bye, Cherie. Bye, Alicia.